Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR. We've got a lot to talk about going on in the Big Ten. We have a Sweet 16 preview show for you. This is going to be a fun show talking about the four teams in the Big Ten that are currently in the Sweet 16. Number of underdogs in this one. Michigan State is the highest seeded team. The rest of the teams are actually playing one seed. So we'll see if Purdue can take down Houston, if Michigan can take down Auburn, and if Maryland can take down Florida. It's going to be a uphill battle for those teams. So we're going to talk about some ways that these teams might be able to upset the teams, and then what some of these teams have an advantage over the other teams. So what they have to do in order to get those wins. If this is your first time watching the Big Ten Huddle, thank you for being here. We have a basketball and a football channel. If you enjoy the basketball channel, head on over to the football channel as well. Please do like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. That helps us out. If you are watching live, this was recorded last night. I do these as live so that way they can kind of be in sections, so that way the longer shows are in the live section, the cut-ups and stuff like that are in the video section. It just kind of helps sort things out better in the YouTube channel and everything. So I won't be able to respond to chats or anything like that. But we do need to get to our first game, which is Purdue. And before we do that, I do want to say this is going to be a pretty stat heavy show. This is one of those shows where I go pretty in depth. I'm not just going to look at full season stats, and I'm not just going to be looking at basic stats. We have a number of pretty specific stats. Some, versus quad one teams, the last 5 games. Some that are full season. There's a little bit of everything here. But for this first one, we're going to go pretty basic with Purdue and Houston, and 10 stats to look at that have been throughout the entire season for Purdue and Houston. So let's go over there. Let's check it out. Purdue faces Houston, the number 1 seed, Houston Cougars. The Houston Cougars were the team that I chose to win my bracket. So that gives you any indication of what I think could happen here. But I will say this is a game that Purdue has an avenue or two to be able to win this game. Now, the avenue here is probably pretty slim, but there is an avenue to win this game, and especially when you have players as good as Braden Smith, TKR, and Fletcher Lawyer, you never know what could happen. And plus, it's essentially a home game for Purdue, so we've seen Mackey be pretty spectacular this year. Can the Mackey energy make its way on over to Indianapolis? We'll have to see. Purdue has gotten pretty hot at home in some games this year, and I think that's probably what Purdue is going to have to do in this one in order to beat Houston. Purdue in the game against Alabama got hot shooting. In the game against Maryland at Mackey got hot shooting. Against Rutgers, that wasn't really supposed to be so close of a game there in the first half, but once they got hot and at the end of the first half and in the second half, that one was all but said and done. I think that's what you're hoping here for if you are a Purdue fan. Let's look at some of these stats, okay? 10 stats to look at in the Purdue versus Houston game. The first 2 are strength on strength, right? Houston's 3-point percentage is the best in the nation. Their shooting percentage, 3-point percentage is the best in the nation at 39.8%. Purdue's not far behind. It is top 10. It is the 9th best in the nation at 38.5%. So we could find ourselves in a 3-point shooting battle here. However, both of these teams, they do not have the highest volume of 3-point shooting. While they do make a lot of 3-pointers, they're both averaging about 20 3-pointers a game when you look at the 2 of them. So this is not a game where you're going to be seeing a barrage of 15, 16 3-pointers most likely. Could happen, maybe. We're going to look at some stats here in a second, but it could happen, but I'm not going to bet on seeing that many from each team. The weakness versus weakness matchup here is Houston. They shoot 48.8% from 2-point range. That is bad. 271st in the nation, 48.8% from 2-point range. And Purdue, they allow 56.2% from 2-point range. That is 341st in the nation. So what's going to give in there? What is going to, be better in that area? Is it going to be Houston? be better against Purdue's, not as good rim protecting defense, or is Purdue going to step up down low in the front court and play some better defense, whether that's on dribble drives, whether that's backing guys down, whatever that is, are they going to be able to do that? That's another key factor here. The other key factor, and this one is just, this is one everybody knows because you have KenPom, you know it, the efficient offenses in this game. Houston's offensive rating is 10th in KenPom. Purdue's offensive rating is 7th in KenPom. So when you look at these two together, you see both top 10 KenPom efficiency. Purdue with the slight edge, but we're going to look at some stats here, and I'll give you even a bonus 11th stat in this one for why I think Houston has the winning formula in this game and why Purdue's 7th KenPom rated offense is probably not going to actually pan out in this one because Houston just has too good of a defense. Houston defends the 2-point shot. The teams shoot a percentage of 44.3% against them. That is the 2-point shot. So you're looking at guys like Trakoff and Wren at the basket. You're looking at guys like Braden Smith driving to the basket. You're looking at some of the role players and stuff like that. Maybe Fletcher Lawyer coming off a catch and shoot in the inbound situation if he's inside the arc, right? You're looking at those situations. Purdue, while it's not bad, it is top 50. It's not close enough to top 5 like Houston's is. Purdue shoots 2-point percentage of 55.1%. We've seen this happen a couple times this season where Trakoff and Wren gets good position. It seems like a shot he could make, but he is not able to finish at times. It happened late in the season a good amount. It's possible we see that in this game. It's also possible that the guys are just better rested and they don't feel the fatigue that maybe they were feeling at the end of the season, especially in the Big Ten tournament. So maybe it gets better in that situation. We'll have to see, but the numbers do heavily favor Houston in this area. The other area that the numbers favor Houston is points in the paint. Houston allow 22.2 points in the paint per game. That is good for third best in the country. Top 3, third best in the country. Well, when it comes to scoring points in the paint, Purdue does not even rank in the top 150 as their points in the paint per game is 32.1%, which is 152nd in the nation. The problem here, even if Purdue doesn't do so well scoring down low because Houston's defense is doing a good job, the problem here is Houston's defense also good, maybe not very good, but good at defending against the 3-point line. Teams are shooting a 3-point percentage of 30.6% against them. That is top 25. In fact, it is actually exactly 25th in the nation for their 3-point shooting percentage. So you look at the situation here. This is not exactly a favorable matchup for Purdue here. This is a game where TKR is going to have to play absolutely out of his mind if he's going to want to score down low. This is a game where you need Fletcher Lawyer to go for something crazy like 7 or 8 3-pointers possibly in this one. This is one where you're going to need Braden Smith to turn into that alpha, turn into that dog that we know he can be. He's not been it as much lately. You wonder if maybe that's due to some fatigue and stuff, but the role players have been doing a better job shooting, doing a better job getting involved offensively. But this Houston defense is nowhere close to what the defense, this Houston defense is just completely out of the atmosphere of what McNeese and High Point were. McNeese and High Point, respectable teams. I'm not trying to say anything against them. McNeese earned that win over Clemson. High Point earned their spot in the NCAA tournament. Not saying anything against those teams. I'm just saying those teams' defense is not Houston. Houston's defense is one of the best in the nation. I believe KenPom has it number 1. I should have double checked that. I apologize. But I believe theirs is number 1 on KenPom, and that's really saying something. It's going to take an incredible effort from Purdue in this one, not just by a single player. It's going to take an incredible effort shooting the 3, and even if they do shoot the 3 ball very well, Houston has the ability to also shoot the 3 ball very well, too. They actually have the better 3-point shooting percentage on the year by, granted, like a 1.4 percentage point, but still it is the better 3-point percentage on the year. And so if you get into a shootout, I think Houston's probably going to be able to stick with you enough, and that's going to spell trouble for Purdue if that's their only way they can win the game. Don't think it's their only way, but if it turns out to be their only way, that's going to spell trouble. I think Houston probably wins this game, but if Purdue does win, you're going to get a legacy game from a Braden Smith. You're going to get a legacy game from a TKR. You're going to get a really, really special game that's going to be celebrated for years to come for Purdue fans. Before we move on to Michigan State, please do like the video, comment if you have any thoughts or anything. Even though I can't respond to you in the chat, I do encourage you to use the chat function, talk with other people. If I can, I will be in the chat chopping it up with you all and seeing what you have to say. But if you're watching this after the fact, not watching it live, please do comment your thoughts. You think Purdue has a chance? Let me know. I just really appreciate you joining me and being here with me and watching the content. It helps, and I appreciate it. Whether you're watching or if you're listening on podcast after the fact as well, I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's move on to the next game here. Michigan State faces off against Ole Miss. The number 2 Michigan State Spartans against the number 6 Ole Miss Rebels. I have 3 players who are must show up in this game. I don't necessarily think these 3 players are going to be the determining factors if they win or not, but I think they are the must show up players in this game. I did not list a Jaden Akins. I did not list a Jace Richardson because I figured those were easy ones, right? Yes, you need Jace Richardson to show up and win a basketball game. Yeah, congratulations. Great analysis, right? What I'm going to give you here are players who are maybe not star players, but do contribute. They are starters. Well, 2 of them are starters. And then I'm going to give you a wild card. I don't think this player must have the game of his life, but I do think there is something about this 3rd player who is a wild card to me that has to do something in this game. He can't be what he's been in the Big Ten tournament, in the NCAA tournament. He has to show up, he has to play, and he has to be involved in this game if Michigan State is going to run deep enough to be able to defeat Ole Miss. They might be able to win without him playing, but still, I think it's going to be better for them if they do. I'll explain when we get to number 3. Number 1 for me is Jackson Kohler. Jackson Kohler needs to stay out of foul trouble in this game because overall, you need a guy like Jackson Kohler in this one. Tom Izzo said it himself. He said, I played Chris Beard before. I know his team is ready to come at you tooth and nail. This is going to be a physical basketball game. Chris Beard is not going to settle for anything less. Now, Chris Beard and their guys, not the best offensive rebounding team in the world, so you need to make sure your guys who can be out there getting rebounds are out there doing so, and Jackson Kohler needs to stay out of foul trouble in order to make that happen. He could match his career high of 7 offensive rebounds in this game. He's got it a couple times, once against Wisconsin, maybe against Nebraska was the other one. I know one was against Wisconsin. With Ole Miss, their defensive rebounding percentage is 69.3%, good for 38th percentile. 38th percentile. So it's not bad, but it is an area where Jackson Kohler could take advantage of things. You see, if you look at their defensive rebounds per game, it is in a similar scenario here where Ole Miss is only grabbing 43rd percentile, and that's good for 24 offensive rebounds per game. You need to make sure that Ole Miss is not getting the rebounds in this one. You cannot give them that advantage. This is a team that does not normally get the advantage of the rebounds, and so as long as you can keep them out of that, Michigan State should be able to win this one. Jackson Kohler is going to be a huge piece to make that happen. My next player is Jeremy Fears Jr. Ole Miss in quad 1 games is in the 8th percentile or lower in allowing free throw attempts per game, right? The free throw attempt rate is 42.5%, which is in the 4th percentile. And then the assist percentage of the opposing team, the assist percentage allowed is 60.5%. Well, what does Jeremy Fears Jr. do? Well, he does a good job of getting to the free throw line and setting his team up with assists. Fears leads the team in free throw attempts per game, but he is only shooting 74.3% on the season. That is fourth worst on this Michigan Spartans team. So if you find yourself in a situation where you're Jeremy Fears Jr. and you are getting to the free throw line, you need to actually knock down these shots. And for Michigan State, you're going to get Jeremy Fears Jr. to the free throw line in this one. This is what Ole Miss does a lot of times. They do foul down low and they do get in foul trouble at times. However, it does you no good to get the other team in foul. I mean, it does you good to get them in foul trouble, but it does you no good to get to the free throw line if you cannot hit a high enough percentage of your free throws. This is an area of Jeremy Fears Jr. game that needs to improve. He needs to be more consistent, get better at it. I believe he can in this game. I believe that Tom Izzo has pointed this out to him, and I think he will deliver for the Spartans. He also leads this team in assists per game at 5.4 assists per game, but he does have a drop-off against Quad 1 teams. He is below 5 assists per game against Quad 1 teams. Still leads the team. Trey Holloman right there behind him at, I believe, 3.2 assists per game. So he still leads the team, but he is not above that 5 range against Quad 1 teams, which Ole Miss is. Finally, my wild card here, and you might say this is a little bit crazy, and that's why I call him the wild card. But make sure you at me if he does end up being a factor in this game. He might not be a factor at all, and if he's not, they can still win. But if he is a factor, I think it helps out Michigan State even more. As Ole Miss does not play anyone who is taller than 6'9", they do have a 7'2" guy, but he has not played in the NCAA tournament yet. Could he possibly get some time in there if this player is doing well? Maybe, but I just don't see him getting extended minutes. The player I'm looking at here is Xavier Booker. Xavier Booker has not scored a point since against Iowa, and what was that? That was March 6th, I believe. He has not scored a point since against Iowa in March 6th. So Xavier Booker is due. He needs to have a game. He has had games this season where he scored well. He scored well against Minnesota, North Carolina, Ohio State. What do those teams have in common? Undersized fives. They have undersized fives in common. Jalen Washington, really the only one that was big enough to be able to contend with Xavier Booker, and he played the 7th most minutes on the team in that game. So you find yourself in a situation here where Xavier Booker, with his length, his height, and everything, he should be able he should be able, what word am I looking for? He should be able to take advantage of, I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. He should be able to take advantage of Ole Miss's lack of size. They do switch a lot, right? They will guard 1 through 5 with just about every player on that team. The problem is you find yourself in a situation where you switch somebody off onto Xavier Booker. You could find Xavier Booker against somebody much, much smaller than him. Now, the double's going to come. Xavier Booker needs to be able to pass out of those and take care of the ball. So, again, I'm not even sure Xavier Booker will get a ton of time in this game, but even if he doesn't, you're looking at a guy like Carson Cooper, 6'11", to have a good offensive game. Jackson Kohler, like I mentioned earlier, for him to have a good offensive game, maybe 10 points or more, especially if he's getting the offensive rebounds in this game. My point is this Ole Miss team is undersized. This Michigan State team has a 7-footer, multiple 6'11" players, and Jackson Kohler, who has been a rebounding machine, and they should be able to take advantage of those things with their big man. But they need their point guard, Jeremy Fears Jr., and also Trey Holloman when he comes in, to run the offense well. But most of all, they need Jeremy Fears Jr. when he gets to the free throw line to knock down those free throws and be the free throw shooter that he can be. All right, let's hit a commercial break really fast. We'll hit a commercial break. We'll come back and we will talk about Michigan versus Auburn and what is the hope that Michigan has. Does Michigan have any hope against Auburn? We'll talk about it when we get back. CBB Analytics isn't just another stat site. It's your ultimate destination for in-depth college basketball analysis used by fans and even the coaches. It has comprehensive stats for men's and women's basketball across Division 1 through 3, dating all the way back to 2018. From shooting percentage to game recap, CBB Analytics has it all. Try CBB Analytics for free or pay for a tier to take your basketball knowledge to the next level. Back here on the Big Ten Huddle. Thank you for sticking with us. If you would like to check out CBB Analytics, use code HUDDLE, HUDDLE. That is code HUDDLE, HUDDLE at cbbanalytics.com for $30 off. That is a huge deal. CBB Analytics, great stat site. They give fantastic analysis. They shot charts, everything. You're going to love CBB analytics.com, $30 off when you use code HUDDLE, HUDDLE. All right, let's talk about this Michigan versus Auburn game. What hope does Michigan have? Does Michigan have any hope against this Auburn team? I believe they do. I think they have three things that gives Michigan hope to defeat the Auburn Tigers. Number one, Auburn has lost 3 of their last 6 games. Auburn has lost to Texas A&M, Alabama, Tennessee. The teams they beat, Mississippi State, one of those two. Ole Miss, Mississippi State. I think it was, Ole Miss. They beat Ole Miss, they beat Alabama State, and they beat Creighton. Congratulations, Creighton, good win. Ole Miss, they're in the tournament as well. Good win. Alabama State, not going to give you much credit for that one. You took care of a 16 seed that was in a play-in game. Good on you. But they lost to Texas A&M, who Michigan just beat, right? It was a fantastic game by Roddy Gale. They got some good contribution from some other players. Trey Donaldson, we'll mention him in a minute as well. They got good contributions, and they were able to win that game. And that team, just like I said, just beat Auburn in the SEC tournament. So, or no, it was right before the SEC tournament. Or was it? I don't know. I get the SEC mixed up. You can tell I don't pay a ton of attention to the SEC. Alabama is another team that beat them. The Alabama this year is 2-2 against the Big Ten. They managed to beat Illinois in a close game and Rutgers, but Alabama also fell to Purdue at Mackey and against Oregon. So Purdue is a team that finished behind Michigan in the Big Ten standings, and so did Oregon as well. If those teams were able to beat Alabama, we're not doing transitive property here. I'm not making a prediction this way, but this does signify that Michigan has some hope. They have a chance in this game. This is not a completely, Auburn's going to win it like most people picked in their brackets. A lot of people didn't even have Michigan going this far, but Michigan has hope. Michigan has a chance here because of those things. And one more. The last team that they lost to in their last 6 games, Tennessee. Guess what? If Tennessee can put up 70 points against Auburn, I believe Michigan can as well. I believe Michigan can put up 70 points on Auburn if Tennessee could do it. Now, the first time they met, I believe it was something really close, like 53-51, really low scoring game. But even if that happens, I think Auburn is a team that is going to keep the game close. This is not the same Auburn that blew out Purdue, that blew out all these other teams in their out of conference. This team is playing much closer with other teams. Janai Broome is not as consistent as he once was to begin the season. So there does seem to be some hope here for Michigan. And if Michigan gets into a close game at the end of it, I like Michigan's chances to be able to pull this one out. More on that in a second. Let's get to my second thing that gives Michigan hope in this one, and that is Auburn's defense has been an issue this season in the last 6 games in particular. So when Auburn wins, okay, I say it's been an issue. When Auburn wins, their defense, their defensive rating is in the 96th percentile. 96th percentile. Very good, right? You win, you play good defense. Well, when they lose, they do not play good defense. Their defensive rating when Auburn loses is in the 0 percentile. 0th. I don't even know if that's a word. 0th, whatever it is, the 0 percentile compared to the rest of the country. That is horrible. You go from winning 96 percentile on average to losing 0 percentile on average. That is absolutely atrocious, and it is a clear weakness this Auburn team has. If they cannot defend, if they're not going to play good defense, then they are going to lose. In addition, in the last 6 games, they've gone 3-3, right? 52 percentile for the defensive rating in the last 3 games. It just goes to show when they win, they play really strong, really good defense. The only exception is pretty much that Tennessee game where I think Tennessee, well, no, they won that game. They won that game 53-51. So even in that one, they played spectacular defense near the 96th percentile. But then when they lose, the other team just scores at will, goes against them, and they're in the 0 percentile. The biggest reasons for this that I can find statistically and from watching the team, but it kind of makes more sense to point out statistically, is in the losses, their offensive rebounding percent is 38.5%. Is that loud? It's 35.8. 38. I apologize. I just double checked. The offensive rebounding percent allowed is 38.5%. That is the 1 percentile in allowed. So offensive rebounding percentage allowed 38.5%. And if we know anything about this Michigan team, we know that they can rebound. It's not always been the most consistent, but they can rebound, and they showed against that Texas A&M team that they can be physical. Now they even have some rest. It's going to be good for them to have that to come into this game, and they should be able to take care of that. In addition to that, Auburn, when they lose, second chance points allowed per game, 18.4. That is 0 percentile. 0 percentile. 18.4 second chance. That's not points in the paint. That is second chance points per game. So the offensive rebounding percentage combined with the second chance points per game, this is where Michigan will have the advantage over Auburn's defense if they are not playing well. Finally, and this is player specific, this one is not a stat. So if you hate the stats, you'll like this one. Trey Donaldson has been unstoppable in late game situations. Now, Roddy Gale obviously helped him out this last game against Texas A&M, but let's review some of the last few games for Michigan, right? In the Big Ten tournament semifinals against Maryland, he hit a go-ahead 3 in the final minute of the game, then had the game-winning layup, what was that, buzzer beater layup, whatever you want to call it, driving down the floor. He was the reason, offensively at least, he was the reason why Michigan won that game late. In addition to that, against Wisconsin in the title game, he hit a go-ahead 3 with less than 2 minutes to play, and Michigan never trailed. Again, after he hit that 3 against UC San Diego, he hit a go-ahead 3 with just over 2 minutes to play to give Michigan the final lead of the game. And then last game against Texas A&M, Michigan lead had been trimmed to 3. He hit a circus-style left-handed figure roll in the final minute to help the Wolverines hold on to win the game. Big moment Donaldson. Big moment Trey Donaldson, and you best believe this guy's ready for the clutch. He's ready in the clutch against his previous team, the Auburn Tigers. Gonna make Bruce Pearl pay for picking Pettiford over Donaldson. Maybe. We'll see. But these 3 things give Michigan hope to beat Auburn. When you watch that game, if it's the offensive rebounding, if it's the poor defense, if it is Trey Donaldson doing something amazing late, make sure you come back to this video, you comment, and you said, JR, you were so right, you're so smart, and we'll listen to you every single Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday morning. Just even if I'm not right, make sure you do that. So 9 a.m. every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday morning. Thanks for joining me one more time. Before we get to this last one, I do just want to ask, shameless plug, please do like, subscribe. Really helps out the channel. I'm trying to grow this basketball channel more. I know there were some people that were frustrated with basketball and football content in the same channel. I went ahead and went away from that to try and make sure that I was giving people the best opportunity. I'm no longer making money on these videos, but you can help me get back to that point where we're over 1,000 subscribers. So please do like, subscribe, share the show, let other people know. Sweet 16 is here, and JR has the details for you. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. All right, let's get to my 3 keys for Maryland must accomplish to beat Florida. Now, I think Maryland has a good chance here to beat Florida. Am I picking them? No, still going to pick Florida. But I do think Maryland has a good chance here to be able to beat Florida for 3 different reasons. Now, some of these stats are going to be a little bit more in depth, but I would do my best to explain them. Maryland cannot let Florida get their offensive rebounding together. All right, Florida in the tournament has offensive rebounding rate of 48.5%. which is the best in the entire tournament. In the NCAA tournament, so only 2 games so far, but still in the NCAA tournament, they have an offensive rebounding rate of 48.5%. It absolutely killed UConn. It killed the 16 seed that they faced in the first round, but those were also teams that they did that against. Maryland with Derek Queen and Julian Reese. They can't afford one of those poor rebounding games that they've had before. They need to make sure they are on the boards. Maryland in the tournament, their rebounding rate has been 33.3%. It is the third worst among Sweet 16 teams. It is the third worst amongst Sweet 16 teams, 33.3%. It is not good enough. It's something they need to be better at. It's something they need to do better if they want to be able to beat this Florida team. So that's that one, 33.3% offensive rebounding percentage allowed in the NCAA tournament is the third worst among Sweet 16 teams. Maryland has to fix that. In addition to that, Maryland is 2-5 when they have 20 or less defensive rebounds in a game. 20 or less defensive rebounds. That means the other team is getting more offensive rebounds. They are only 2-5 in those scenarios. Have to clean that up. Have to be better on the defensive boards, taking away opportunities from an awesome offensive rebounding team like Florida has been in the NCAA tournament. Okay, number 2, Maryland has to capitalize on not turning the ball over. Maryland has to keep every single possession they have and use it to try and get an opportunity to score. Maryland turns the ball over less than 10 times per game versus quad 1 opponents. It's really, really good. That's something that you want to see. However, Florida allows less than 10 turnovers per game versus quad 1 opponents. So you have an advantage here for Maryland, where Maryland is not turning the ball over 10 or more times versus quad 1 opponents, and then Florida is not having the other team turn the ball over that much. This could be a game where you see Maryland as low as 3-4 turnovers in the game, and that's what Maryland has to do. In fact, Maryland is 6-1 when they turn the ball over less than 10 times per game. It's a big stat for them. It's something that really helps their offense, and this is the Crab 5 offense. The more opportunities you give them, the deadlier they're going to be. In fact, 3 of Florida's 4 losses, Florida only has 4 losses on the season. So what is in common with those losses? Well, 3 of those 4 losses were when the opponent turned the ball over less than 10 times per game. So Maryland, when they are turning the ball over less than 10 times per game, they're winning more often than not. Florida, when they are not forcing 10 or more turnovers per game, they are losing more often than not. Really need to take advantage of that. Maryland has to make sure they take care of the ball. They can't let Florida have a game where they just all of a sudden have good defense and Maryland is making stupid decisions, throwing the ball out of bounds, getting shot clock violations. Have to be aware of all that stuff. At least put the shot up. Give Derek Queen, give Julian Reese an opportunity to make a play. Last one, Maryland, and this is going to be a little bit of a weird one, but pay attention here. Maryland must limit lead changes. Yes, lead changes. The scoreboard. They have to limit. If Maryland gets the lead, they need to just run with it. They cannot allow Florida to go back and forth, flip-flop, back and forth. Florida the lead, Maryland the lead, Florida the lead. They cannot allow that to happen. In fact, Maryland is 2-5 when the lead changes more than 10 times in a game. I know, that's a weird stat, right? Maryland is 2-5 when the lead changes more than 10 times in a game. The 2 wins that they have, Villanova, Derek Queen hit the two free throws to give them the lead with about 19 seconds left in the game, I think that was. And Colorado State, Derek Queen hits the buzzer beater. People call it a travel. I say nobody calls that anymore, so don't call it. But as far as I'm concerned, those 2 wins were nail biters to the very end. Anytime Maryland is flip-flopping the lead, score changes, lead changes more than 10 times in a game, it is bad for them. Florida, on the other hand, Florida is 11-0 when the lead changes more than 4 times. More than 4 times. Sometimes the lead can change 4 times in the first 10 minutes of the game, right? But if the lead changes more than 4 times, Florida is 11-0. have to limit the lead changes, have to limit those things from happening. It will be a key for Maryland in this game. If you want to win Maryland, you need to take the lead, grasp it, and step on the neck of Florida and make sure they are gasping for air and they do not get any air to come back in the game. That's what I got for you. Oh, I forgot to put that one up. Whoops, my bad. That's all I got for you. I appreciate all of you for being here. I appreciate your time watching the Big Ten Huddle. Do check us out over on the football channel as well. The football channel, we have an episode every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern time. And then on the basketball channel, we have an episode for you every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Super easy to remember. Gonna keep it consistent. You guys really appreciate you watching and everything. So have fun watching the Sweet 16. And I will be on right after the Purdue game on Friday night. Gonna stay up, gonna do an After Dark on that one. After Dark's kind of happened a little bit more spontaneously, but you can stay up with me on that one, recapping all of the Big Ten games. Maryland plays Thursday. The rest of the 3 play Friday night. We'll recap them all. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. Have a good one.